Hi, my name is Cullen Forsher, and today I will be discussing the rise of the zombie invasion narrative. Zombie cinema has been a part of the American culture since the early 1930s, but it wasn't until the late 1960s when America was firstly introduced to the zombie invasion narrative. This was all thanks to the work of George Romero and his film Night of the Living Dead. Romero had created a brand new type of zombie cinema by combining a mixture of pre-existing subgenres. Romero's zombies in Night of the Living Dead differed from zombies found in earlier films and more closely resemble vampires and invading aliens. These new zombies have no connection to voodoo magic, they far outnumber the human protagonist, they eat human flesh, and their condition is contagious. A key feature in the zombie invasion narrative is the presence of an unfamiliar other. This is seen in a variety of 19th century Gothic and science fiction narratives. One of the most famous pieces of literature to add this element is Shelley's Frankenstein. The man-made monster seen in Frankenstein is immediately marginalized by society as well as his own creator, Victor Frankenstein. This movie illustrates how fear of being or becoming the other ultimately means fear of disenfranchisement from society and the risk of becoming a literal monster. The use of the unfamiliar other in zombie films is well suited to explore cultural concerns of alienation and marginalization within America. Due to the global atrocities of World War II, the 1940s and 50s saw a dramatic upswing in horror media. The most notable horror media was the publication of Tales from the Crypt by EC Comics in 1950. Horror comics appealed to teens and young adults in America who were trying to cope with the aftermath of all the violence and terror that was taking place at the time. Romero took advantage of the terror within America and applied the same ideas from the horror comics of the 1950s to many of his own zombie films. He confirms the connection to his film Dawn of the Dead and refers to the filming as making a comic book. Romero was influenced by a wide variety of science fiction and horror films of the 1950s. Especially those featuring apocalyptic scenarios. One of the most influential end-of-the-world narratives from the mid-20th century is Daphne du Maurier's The Birds. The short story focuses on a family that is trapped in their boarded-up home to escape the attacks by flocks of enraged birds. Rather than dealing with just one monster, The Birds features an external horde and overwhelming odds. Romero fed off the apocalyptic scenarios seen in The Birds and applied many of the same ideas from the film to his own film, Night of the Living Dead. All of the different narratives mentioned throughout the video address various issues and concerns of the other, alienation, marginalization, enslavement, and invasion in different ways. They also, however, illustrate the widespread fear about monarchy in America, some focusing deliberately on the paranoia surrounding threats such as communism and global annihilation. Although each of these discussed narratives influenced Romero's ultimate vision for Night of the Living Dead, his story is inspired primarily by Matheson's I Am Legend, as well as Ragona and Salco's Last Man on Earth. Richard Matheson's I Am Legend features hordes of vampires who rampantly infect and replace the world's human population. The main character of the story, Richard Neville, literally becomes the last man on Earth, doing anything to stay alive. Neville acts with typical American pragmatism, fortifying his house, finding supplies to keep him alive, and killing any monster that stands in his way of survival. These fundamental plot elements mark a dramatic change in the traditional vampire narrative, and are now firm protocols with the zombie invasion narrative. Although once thought of as a low-grade film, Night of the Living Dead is now thought of as the best genre fiction to address the issues explored by literary function. Romero was reacting to the social problems and cultural environment of the 1960s, using his film to comment on the various issues revolving around World War II and the Cold War. Night of the Living Dead is an important part of the American culture for two key reasons. First off, the movie shows a major shift in the stylistic and thematic rules of the cinematic zombie narrative. And second, it illustrates a particularly pessimistic turn in the invasion narrative tradition, one in which the human is the disenfranchised other and not the monster. Overall, Night of the Living Dead wouldn't have had nearly the impact it did if it weren't for these previous novels and films. This film will forever serve as the defining point in the zombie invasion narrative and will be used as a reference point for all new zombie invasion films that are made.